You ever buy something so cheap you expect it to be garbage and then it ends up being shockingly good? Yeah, that's this watch, and it's honestly making me question everything I thought I knew about cheap budget watches and expensive watches. I bought this watch expecting to wear it once, review it, and then move on. But after several months of owning it, it's still a watch that I reach for and wear regularly. It's cheap, it's simple, and incredibly well made, and it honestly makes me rethink what value even means in a watch. This is the Addiesdive AD2030, a cheap Chinese watch that somehow punches way above its price point. It's really funny because for the longest time I tried to stay away from buying or reviewing these really cheap sort of Chinese AliExpress type watches because they're a dime a dozen, they're usually very low quality, and a lot of them are sort of in the area of homage or replica watches. But the AD2030 had just gotten so much buzz and attention online, and honestly for good reason. The specs on this watch are honestly pretty mind-blowing given the price. Think about all the things that we typically associate with higher end or premium watches. Usually it's things like good scratch resistance with a sapphire crystal, good water resistance, maybe a screw down crown, good construction, quality materials, nice brushing and finishing, a clean dial design, maybe some applied indices, good sizing, and obviously great timekeeping. If you just list out all of those features on a piece of paper and give someone the task of finding a watch that fits all of those criteria, most of the time you're gonna end up in a much higher price bracket. Definitely not anything less than $100, right? And that's where you'd be wrong, because somehow the AD2030 has all of those features, and it's less than $70 on Amazon. All right, one quick correction. Turns out I'm an idiot. The AD2030 does not have a sapphire crystal. Some of Addiesdive's other models, the automatic ones, do have sapphire crystals, but the AD2030 actually has a K1 mineral crystal, which is a little different than sapphire. It's not quite as scratch resistant. It is a little bit cheaper, which is probably where they're getting those cost savings from. It actually is pretty good for shock absorption, so it's actually a little bit better than a sapphire crystal when it comes to hard impacts. But just thought I'd make that correction here, so when you hear me say sapphire crystal throughout the rest of this video, just know I'm wrong. It's actually a K1 mineral crystal. I honestly don't know how they pull it off, and at this point it probably sounds like I'm a sponsored Addiesdive influencer, but I promise I'm not. The company has no idea who I am. They're not paying me to promote this in any way. The specs on this watch are just absolutely ridiculous for the price you pay. And honestly, the only thing that held me back from buying this watch sooner, or even from wearing it more often than I do, is just the idea that this is like a cheap Chinese watch brand. And that idea alone has just sort of made me rethink how I look at watches. Like, it does honestly make me realize that a lot of what I tend to reach for or look for when buying a new watch is the brand and the origins of the watch, whether or not that's a good thing. Because on paper, this watch is phenomenal, and if it just had a Casio logo stamped on it instead of an Addiesdive one, I'm willing to bet that this would be one of the most popular watches on the market. In fact, one of the best comparisons I can make to the Addiesdive is what I'm wearing right now. This is the Casio Edifice EFR S108D. And this watch is very similar in a lot of ways to the Addiesdive AD2030. They both have full stainless steel construction, sapphire crystals, 100 meters of water resistance, applied indices on the dials, and quartz movements. The only difference is that this Casio cost me about 3 times what the Addiesdive cost me. And I can very confidently say that the Addiesdive is better in a lot of ways than the Casio Edifice. To start, the Addiesdive actually has a mecha quartz movement, which means that the second hand has those much cleaner, smoother micro ticks, almost like in an automatic watch, as compared to the typical ticking on a quartz watch. And it's honestly pretty obvious on the Edifice. This is one of the loudest watches I own. The Addiesdive also has a screw down crown, unlike the Edifice, probably helping out more with water resistance. It's got, in my opinion, a much more interesting 3-dimensional dial, and overall, in my opinion, much superior build quality and finishing on the case and bracelets. The bracelet is honestly the worst part of this Casio Edifice. It's very lightweight, jangly, and just feels really cheap. The Addiesdive, on the other hand, feels very solid. It's well brushed and finished, and it just feels like the bracelet of a much more expensive watch. So I don't mean for this to be a direct comparison between these two watches. They're very different and I still love my Edifice EFR, but it's just interesting to see these two watches side by side, knowing that most people would probably naturally gravitate towards the Casio watch and completely dismiss the Addiesdive because it's a cheap Chinese watch. When personally, I would have a very hard time arguing that this is the better watch over this one. So that's the first thing that this watch has really made me question, is just my assumptions when looking at newer or cheaper watches, especially Chinese ones. Because I think a lot of us have the built-in assumption that cheap or Chinese equals bad quality. And this watch just completely blows that assumption out of the water. The second thing the Addiesdive has really made me question is why some brands charge so much for these quote-unquote premium features. If somehow this watch can pull off having a sapphire crystal, a stainless steel construction that's well built and well finished, an interesting textured 3D dial with applied indices, a screw down crown, a mecha quartz movement, if a watch like this can exist for less than $70, what is going on with all the other major brands? Again, even going back to Casio, which is one of the best budget affordable watch brands out there. Somehow, even Casio, producing a very similar watch with similar specs, has some of their watches priced at 2 or 3 times what Addiesdive charges. So this is just a question. I don't have the answer to this, but it really does make you think and question what's going on when you see and hold a watch like this. By the way, if you're looking to pick up this exact model, they are currently selling on Amazon for under $70, so I'll leave the link down below. So I don't know, this watch is just super interesting to me, and it makes me second guess the way I look at watches. But let me know what you think down in the comments. Am I overhyping this thing way too much? Or do you agree with me that this is an absolute steal of a watch and has you questioning your entire existence? Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on the channel and all things watch collecting. If you like this video, watch this one next. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next video.